the most luxurious boat of the time, yet one of the most iconic disasters in history, the Titanic. Said to be indestructible, ironically sank on its very first voyage April 15, 1912, killing over 1,500 people. The construction of the Titanic began on March 31, 1909, and was built by over 15,000 people. When the construction of the Titanic was complete, it weighed a whopping 46,000 tons. Emergency items such as lifeboats were put on the ship, but not enough for everyone on board. Only 20 lifeboats were placed on the ship, which is enough to carry half of the Titanic passengers and crew. J. Bruce Ismay, Managing Director of White Star Lines, specified before the voyage, "I will not have so many little lifeboats, as you call them, cluttering up my decks and putting fear into my passengers. If only 20 more lifeboats were put on board, then almost everyone would have survived the sinking." Captain Edward John Smith, the commander of the Titanic, was named Millionaire's Captain. Before the tragedy, he clearly stated, "I cannot imagine any condition which would cause this ship to founder. I cannot conceive of any vital disaster happening to this vessel." However, the upcoming disaster that occurred 5 days later proved his declaration wrong. Ironically, he didn't survive the Titanic sinking. What did it look like from inside the Titanic? Was it really a luxury liner? The Titanic was designed to be the largest and most luxurious hotel at the time, on water. It consisted of a total of 840 rooms, 416 first class, 162 second class, and 262 third class, and a 6 feet deep swimming pool, a quality gym, 4 restaurants, and 2 barbershops. Imagine what it would feel like to be on the Titanic. Apparently the Titanic didn't have that get-together feeling.
£2 million.
There was something about the Titanic. It was so very formal. It was so stiff. The atmosphere was stiff. The coziness. The kind of get-together feeling. It didn't exist.
The Titanic took off on the 10th of April 1912 from Southampton, England to the intended destination of New York City. Tickets were sold internationally to voyage on the Titanic, nicknaming it Millionaire's Special. Some boarded the Titanic in hope for a splendid vacation, whereas others wanted to start a new life in America. The Titanic made several stops within the European countries, including Queenstown, Ireland on the 11th of April 1912, picking up additional passengers on the way. The final destination was set for America at 1:30 p.m. During the voyage to New York City, the ship carried over 2,200 passengers and crew. The Titanic received several warning messages from America, informing them that there were large icebergs nearby, as the ship was sailing through the Atlantic Ocean. Most operators didn't worry, as the ship was said to be indestructible, but Captain Edward John Smith didn't want to risk it, so he slightly differed the Titanic's course to hopefully avoid the icebergs. Unfortunately, it made the situation worse, and the Titanic was soon surrounded by ice. The first distress call was sent by a senior operator of the wireless room, Jack Phillips. An iceberg was soon spotted in the direction of the Titanic by a young man named Frederick Fleet. It was too late. The iceberg struck the Titanic at 11:40 p.m. The sinking began. Passengers were sent to the top deck to board lifeboats, letting women and children board first. Most men were left behind to sink with the Titanic, while others were too late. Some had the courage to jump into the water and swim to safety, but froze to death from the freezing temperatures of the water. Some still lived to tell the tale, such as Charles Lightoller, the second officer of the Titanic. Striking the water was like 1,000 knives being driven into one's body. The temperature was 28 degrees, 4 degrees below freezing. Also, Eva Hart, a Titanic survivor at age 9. The sounds of people drowning are something I cannot describe to you, and neither can anyone else. It is the most dreadful sound. There is a terrible silence that follows it. A rescue boat named the Carpathia Captain Arthur Rostron arrived a few hours later and rescued the remaining survivors of the tragic sinking. Titanic survivor Lawrence Beasley first spotted the rescue boat as he was aboard a lifeboat. Then creeping over the edge of the sea, we saw a single light, and presently a second below it. It seemed almost too good to be true, and I think everyone's eyes were filled with tears, men's as well as women's. All around us we heard shouts and cheers. The captain of the Carpathia didn't hesitate to search for more survivors, other than the people on the lifeboats. At 8:30, all the people were on board. I wanted to hold a service, a short prayer of thankfulness for those rescued, and a short burial service for those who were lost. Captain Arthur Rostron received an award for his bravery. Many newspaper articles were sent across the world about the most iconic disaster in history. It was confirmed that around 1,500 out of the 2,200 passengers and crew perished during the sinking of the vessel. The Titanic's wreckage was discovered 70 years later, on the 1st of September 1985, on an American-French expedition led by an American oceanographer named Dr. Robert Ballard. The discovery of the Titanic's wreckage gave birth to new dreams in ocean exploration. The Titanic's wreckage is still studied today using modern technology. Our advanced technology has located and recovered artifacts that reveal the human side of the tragedy, such as a notebook that belonged to a 17-year-old passenger with writing that is still legible. At the time, the Titanic was worth $7.5 million. If the Titanic existed today, the ship would be worth $400 million. The legacy of the Great Titanic continues to live today. The sinking has inspired stories and movies such as the Academy Award-winning Titanic movie, released in December 1997. Museums have been built in England and America starring the Titanic and recovered artifacts. Each year on the 15th of April, we dedicate the day to the memory of when the Titanic tragically sank. We remember the more than 1,500 people who died that day, and we hope that an event such as this will never occur again.